Revealed, my son-in-law's shocking attempt to steal from me led to an incredible discovery. Jane stood frozen in her quaint kitchen, hands trembling as she held the evening's lasagna, her heart pounding. Her once warm family dinners had become epicenters of tension, particularly since Mark, her daughter Emily's husband, had lost his job. The proposal to go into business together had seemed like a lifeline, but it also felt like a noose tightening around her chest. Could the man she once considered family now be plotting to exploit her? With a straining smile, she tried to mask her concerns. The laughter of her grandchildren filled the room, cracking the surface tension only slightly. But beneath the surface, turmoil brewed. Mark's frequent glances at his phone during family gatherings felt like messages sent in code, the urgency behind them pulling at Jane's gut. She couldn't shake the nagging feeling that his business plan wasn't the only thing he was hiding. As nights passed, family dinners transformed into emotional battlegrounds. Jane's mind raced as her heart ached. Each interaction brought forth unspoken words, buried resentments, and the looming fear that if she voiced her concerns about Mark, she'd risk tearing her family apart. Every day, she clung tighter to her values: hard work, honesty, self-reliance. Determined to sift through the fog. One chilly evening, Jane sought refuge in the attic, sorting through old boxes she hadn't opened in years. Dust swarmed around her as she found a ledger filled with her late husband's achievements, chronicling their journey built on resilience and hard work. As she flipped through the pages, brushed memories flooded back, adventures they took as a family, the laughter echoing through the halls of their home. Then, a slip of paper tucked into the binding caught her eye. Jane pulled it out and her breath hitched. In that moment, the world around her seemed to fade. The hidden documents revealed a family legacy Mark had been carrying: tales of pressure, expectations, and a desperate pursuit of honor. Suddenly, the man she had judged harshly now teetered on the precipice of her empathy. Could it be? Was he truly struggling, not to deceive her, but to uphold the dignity of his family's name? Emotion surged through Jane like a wave crashing against a rocky shoreline. She felt a mix of compassion and doubt. How could she approach Mark without allowing her fears to control the moment? She needed to express her honesty while navigating the minefield their relationship had become. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The family party was approaching, and the weight of unexpressed feelings loomed large. Jane felt the impending cloud of tension. One misstep and it could unravel everything. Would she find the courage to face Mark? Could they really bridge the gap between judgment and understanding? The thought of their family fracturing filled her with dread, yet hope flickered softly deep within her heart, urging her to reach out. Standing at this crossroads, Jane knew she had to make a choice. What she didn't realize was that her discovery would either shatter their family further or bind it closer together than ever imagined. The day of the family party finally arrived, sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, illuminating the 3-layer cake Jane had spent the night decorating. Each layer was filled with cream and berries, a reflection of the love she wished to show. But as she stirred the frosting, her thoughts drifted back to the paper she found in the attic. What would she say to Mark? How could she turn her suspicion into understanding? Jane's hands shook with the weight of her decision. Gathering courage, she glanced at the clock, realizing the guests would arrive any minute. There was no more time to prepare. The doorbell rang, and Jane forced a smile as she opened the door to greet Emily and the kids. The laughter of her grandchildren filled the air, sweeping the tension away if only for a moment. Mark stepped through the door next, offering Jane a nod in greeting. She caught a glimpse of his furrowed brow, the strain evident on his face. It was like looking into a mirror of her own worries. As the family gathered around the table, a delicious aroma spiraled through the room, but Jane could hardly taste it. The first few minutes felt like an awkward dance, filled with small talk that felt almost like a performance, everyone trying to appear at ease. Jane's heart raced as she prepared herself for the conversation that loomed largest. Can we talk later? Just for a minute, she managed to whisper to Mark as they cleared the plates. He blinked, surprise crossing his features, but nodded. The family enjoyed another round of laughter, and it warmed Jane's heart, yet she felt like a stranger in her own home. As the party progressed, she stole glances at Mark, who was animated with Emily and the kids, but his eyes clouded with uncertainty every now and then. Memories of her husband flooded back. His calm, reassuring presence would have soothed the moment. Finally, after everyone had enjoyed indulgent bites of dessert, Jane took a deep breath and signaled for a moment of quiet. The chatter ceased, all eyes turned toward her, and she suddenly felt exposed, like a candle flickering in the wind. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, glancing backstage over Mark's shoulder. "Family means everything to us." Then, with raw emotion pooling in her chest, she continued, "I want you all to know how much I love you. No matter the difficulties we face, we must be honest with each other, even when it feels hard." She turned slightly, looking directly at Mark. "I found something in the attic the other day. Things that made me see you differently, Mark. I realize now that we all have our burdens to carry, and sometimes those burdens can look like secrets." The air stilled, and the room held its breath, as Jane's eyes brimmed with tears. "I don't want to keep judging you without understanding. I want us to talk about things, as family. Will you?" Silence hung between them. The clock ticked loudly, each second amplifying the tension. Mark's expression shifted from shock to contemplation. Jane's heart leaped at the flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. Would he share his truth? "Jane." He finally started, hesitating as if weighing his words carefully. The clock continued to tick, and in that moment, Jane realized she was closer to the truth than she'd ever imagined. But before Mark could continue, a loud crash echoed from the living room filled with voices of surprise. The moment shattered, leaving Jane and Mark suspended in the air, mouths gaping like fish out of water. What had just happened? Jane's heart raced as she wondered what else could possibly unravel before her eyes. Jane's breath hitched in her throat as the crash echoed through the house. It was followed by a chorus of startled voices filtering in from the living room. "What happened? Is everyone okay?" she called out, her heart pounding in her chest. Mark looked at her, confusion etched on his face. "I'll check it out." He hurried past her, a mix of concern and dread on his face. As he slipped into the chaos, Jane moved closer to the doorway, peering through the crowd of family members who had pushed into the room. To her shock, she spotted her son-in-law, Ian, crouched on the floor, his hands buried in broken shards of what had once been her favorite vase. The children stood back, eyes wide, while Emily rushed to Ian's side, worry painting her face. "Are you hurt? What happened?" Emily's voice quivered as she knelt beside him. "I slipped. It fell over," Ian stammered, his voice shaky, but there was something oddly furtive in his eyes. Jane's instincts kicked in. She moved forward, concern mixed with a twinkling suspicion. "It's all right. Accidents happen," she said, trying to ease the tension. But doubt lingered in her mind. Had he really just tripped? The way his eyes darted around gauging the room felt unsettling. An uncomfortable silence settled as everyone continued to stare at the small disaster. Jane's thoughts spiraled back to the attic, the revelations, and how secrets could ripple through the family like a quiet but sudden storm. "Let us clean this up," Mark said, stepping closer to Ian, but Jane could see he wasn't just focused on the mess. He was watching Ian carefully, their exchange loaded with unspoken words. The kids returned to their pre-party activities, chattering and laughing as if the crash had been a mere mirage. But for Jane, the earlier lightness felt dimmed. Instead, the atmosphere buzzed with questionable energy, thick like the frosting on her cake. As the pieces of the vase were swept away, Jane felt the weight of the moment. Was this accident a mere coincidence or a reflection of something deeper? "Here," she said, grabbing a plate of leftover cake she had set aside. "Why don't we take a break in the garden? The air will do us good." She needed to breathe, to think, to regroup. Emily nodded, embracing the suggestion. "That sounds perfect." She grabbed Ian's hand, guiding him along with her and giving Jane a wary glance. Jane sensed Emily's protectiveness mingling with concern for her husband. As they settled onto the deck, the sun draped warmth over them, yet the space felt heavy. Jane could feel all eyes surveying her every move. She savored the momentary peace but felt a spike of urgency rise within her. She couldn't ignore what had just happened. Ian's reckless nature, the crash, it had ignited something in her gut. "All right, Ian," she said, voice steady though her heart raced, "I would love to hear what really happened back there." He looked at her, surprise flickering before the mask of composure returned. The tension in the air crackled as the group fell silent, the only sounds the soft chirping of birds and distant laughter from the kids. Just then, a deep breath escaped him. He began, and Jane leaned in, eager but cautious, every moment stretching the silence between them. What would he say? Would he confess, or would this revelation lead to more questions? Suddenly, the door creaked, and it swung wider, already beckoning more mystery into the fold. All eyes turned toward the door as it swung open, revealing Lucy, Jane's youngest daughter, with a wide grin plastered on her face. "What's going on out here?" I heard a loud bang. She stepped into the garden, blissfully unaware of the heavy atmosphere that cloaked the group. "Just a little accident," Jane replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She felt the tension briefly dissipate, as Lucy's innocent energy brought a flicker of light to the moment. "Accident?" she echoed, her brow furrowing. "What accident?" Before anyone could respond, Ian, who had been studying his shoes, snapped his gaze up. "Just me knocking over a vase. No big deal, right?" His casual facade held together, but the glance he shot Jane spoke volumes. Lucy's smile slipped as she took in the shattered pieces visible through the doorway. "Oh, Mom's favorite one," she said softly, bending to inspect the remnants. "How did that happen?" "It was an accident really," Ian replied, a note of defensiveness creeping into his tone. "I slipped, that's all." He leaned back slightly, perhaps realizing that his justification sounded weak under scrutiny. Jane felt anxiety coil in her stomach. Something about Ian's rigidity sent alarm bells ringing in her mind. Nearly everyone in the family crowded around Ian for comfort, oblivious or unwilling to engage with the emotional undercurrents that stirred the air. "All right, everyone, let's just grab some refreshments," Mark suggested, attempting to lighten the mood. His eyes flicked to Jane, as if silently asking her to play along. They needed to move past this to re-establish a sense of normalcy. But as the kids scampered inside for juice and cookies, Jane remained rooted, eyes locked on Ian. It felt paramount to dive deeper into the mystery brewing beneath his unconvincing veil. "Ian," she said steadily, her heart drumming loudly, "we all make mistakes. But you know I'm not one to overlook things when they don't add up." Her voice was calm, but it quaked just beneath the surface. Lucy, still fervent in her innocence, turned back to her mother, unknowingly adding to the tension. "Why are you being so serious? It was just a vase. It's just stuff." Jane's gaze remained on Ian, who for a fleeting moment seemed lost, as if he were considering how to portray himself, whether to feign innocence or show something deeper, something real. "Stuff doesn't mean much, Lucy," Jane finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But sometimes the way we treat it reveals a lot about who we are." Ian shifted, glancing at Emily for support, but Jane noticed a slight tremor in his hands. The smallest hints of vulnerability surfacing in what should have been a routine family gathering. "Can we just drop it?" Emily chimed in, her eyes darting between Jane and Ian. "It really was an accident, right, Ian?" But Jane was not ready to let it rest. "Was it, Ian?" she pressed gently, "or is there more you're not telling us?" The air thickened, disbelief mixing with anticipation. Would he break? As silence draped them like a heavy blanket, Jane's phone buzzed in her pocket, a sharp reminder of the outside world. She considered ignoring it, but something told her to check. Without a word, she pulled it out, glancing at the notification that a scrolled message from an unknown number read, "I need to talk to you about Ian. It's important." Jane's heart skipped a beat, and she exchanged glances with Mark, whose worry deepened. Who was that?" Emily asked, eyeing her mother suspiciously. Jane hesitated, caught between her instinct to shield her family and the burning urgency to uncover what secrets Ian harbored. What diving path awaited her at the end of that message? Jane felt a storm brewing behind her calm facade, a decisive choice looming on the horizon. "Let us finish here," she said finally, steeling herself. "There's something I need to figure out." Her heart raced as she considered calling back that unknown number. What if it held the key to everything? A revelation or a disaster? The tension hung heavy in the air, leaving everyone waiting. As she took a breath, ready to make that call, the door creaked open once more, signaling someone else's arrival. What now? The door swung open, revealing Sarah, Jane's older daughter, hair swept back in a messy bun, her phone pressed to her ear. She stepped inside, the air around her buzzing with unfiltered energy. "You guys won't believe what I just saw," she exclaimed, a bright smile illuminating her face, oblivious to the somber mood that enveloped the rest of the family. "Sarah, not now," Jane urged, still focused on Ian, who was still too rigid, fought against the concern creeping into her voice. "Can we talk for a moment?" But before Sarah could respond, she noticed the shattered vase on the ground. It seemed to catch her excitement. "Whoa, what happened? Did someone get too wild at the party?" Mark, sensing the fading daylight and growing tension, stepped in. "Just a little accident," he said, although the tightness around his mouth suggested he'd rather not dive into details. "An accident? Really?" Sarah raised an eyebrow, her tone shifting. "Because Ian seems pretty tense for someone who just knocked over a vase." "Why does everything have to be analyzed?" snapped Emily, clearly frustrated by the growing scrutiny around Ian. She folded her arms, protecting him with her attitude, but Jane could see that even Emily wasn't completely convinced. "I should be known it would happen during this get-together," Sarah continued, undeterred. "I can't believe that guy from the coffee shop is at it again, trying to sell those gaudy decorations. He practically stole everything from the last event." "Sarah!" Jane interrupted, her tone sharper than she intended. "Can we keep this on track?" As if liberated from a spell, everyone fell silent. Their eyes flicked from Jane to Ian, everyone processing the strange mix of tension and confusion hanging in the air. This wasn't just about a broken vase anymore, it was about something deeper. Ian's gaze darted nervously toward his mother-in-law, then back to the floor. "I'm okay," Ian said, trying to inject cheerfulness, but Jane recognized the cracks in his facade. "Just a little slip." Jane took a deep breath, feeling the weight of unspoken truths pressing on her. "Have any of you ever felt like you're living a lie? Like everything seems perfect on the surface, but underneath, it's all crumbling?" Lucy, still holding her half-empty juice box, blinked in confusion. "What do you mean, Mom?" "I mean sometimes the things we talk about and the things we hide can be at odds," she started, looking back to Ian. "Sometimes we fear what's in our hearts so much that we bury it beneath trivial things like a vase." "Ian, what's really going on with you?" His eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, Jane thought she could see the tumult within. But before he could respond, the weight of Jane's phone almost seemed to drag her back to reality. The message lingered in her mind like a forgotten dream. "I need to talk to you about Ian. It's important." Before she could decide her next move, Sarah cleared her throat. "Whatever it is, Ian, you know you can talk to us, right?" The tension in the room almost seemed palpable. "Just tell the truth," Emily added softly, her protective stance softening ever so slightly. As Ian opened his mouth to speak, the front door burst open once more, the bright sunlight pouring in as someone pushed through. Jane squinted, her heart racing as she recognized the figure silhouette against the light. The air shifted, and with it, the stakes rose higher. "Sorry I'm late," the newcomer shouted, stepping into the room. But the collective gasp that followed confirmed it was not just any arrival. With their entrance came a whirlwind of questions that could unravel everything Jane had fought to protect. "Who are you?" Jane whispered, heart pounding as she braced for the storm approaching. What secrets awaited them all now? The newcomer stepped fully into the room, their presence casting a long shadow over the family. Jane swallowed hard, trying to place the face she thought she knew well. It was Mia, an old friend from her college days. They hadn't spoken in years, yet here she stood, as if drawn back into their lives at this very moment. I didn't mean to barge in, but Mia's voice trailed off as her gaze landed on Ian. The charged air thickened as each person took stock of the situation. Is everything okay? Sarah asked, breaking the heavy silence. Mia hesitated, a shadow of doubt crossing her face as she seemed to weigh her words. I heard there was some trouble, so I came to check on you. What kind of trouble? Mark asked carefully, the fatherly instinct kicking in. I received a message just before coming here. It mentioned something about Ian needing help. Mia's focus narrowed on his face, and Jane felt her heart begin to race again. What did Mia know? I'm fine, Ian insisted, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. There's nothing to worry about. Before Jane could react, Sarah stepped in front of Mia. You don't just show up after all this time because you heard some gossip. What is going on? She crossed her arms defiantly, embodying both anger and protectiveness. Mia's eyes darted between Sarah and Ian, and for an instant, Jane saw something flicker. Was it concern? Guilt? She stepped forward, pulling Mia gently to the side. Can we talk privately for a moment? No. Ian burst out, his tone sharper than intended. Jane, we can't just discuss this behind closed doors. If Mia knows something, then everyone should hear it. His eyes, usually filled with warmth, were now dark with anxiety and something deeper. That might not be wise, Mia interjected, the tension of the room weighing on her as she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Tell us. Jane exclaimed, her voice pleading, willing Mia to understand the need for honesty. She pointed her finger toward Ian. Whatever is going on, it's impacting all of us. Please, don't keep us in the dark. The room held its breath. Mia glanced down, hesitating, then slowly met Ian's eyes. It's about those debts you've been struggling with, isn't it? A wave of realization washed over everyone. Ian's shoulders slumped as the facade he had built cracked, revealing flickers of desperation. Mia, please, he started, but his voice was trembling. What debts? Emily's voice was tight, a storm of emotions brewing behind her protectiveness. Nothing, just it's complicated, Ian stammered, each word spilling out as if they weighed too much to bear. No, it's not complicated. Mia snapped, losing her patience. You've been borrowing money from a loan shark, haven't you? The whole town is talking about it. This is serious, Ian. The color drained from Ian's face. No, do you have any idea what you're getting us into? Jane's heart raced, fear mixed with a sense of betrayal. I was going to handle it, Ian mumbled, making it sound worse by the second. But why not ask for help? Sarah questioned, bewildered. We're family. We could have worked through this together. The silence was deafening as Ian's gaze fell once more, unable to meet their eyes. There it was again, that unacknowledged worry about the truth that had finally surfaced. We need to talk about this, Jane insisted, tone firm yet laced with desperation. All of us. But before anyone could respond, another voice echoed from the doorway, a familiar figure stepping in with a determined look. I think I can help. You all deserve to know the truth. Everyone turned as Jamie, an old acquaintance of Mia, strolled in, carrying with him a sense of urgency. The pieces of this unsettling puzzle were beginning to come together in a way Jane hadn't anticipated. What truth would Jamie reveal, and how far did this rabbit hole go? As Jamie stepped fully into the living room, his presence added to the charged atmosphere already buzzing between them. Jane watched as Mia's face shifted from uncertainty to a flicker of relief. It was as if Jamie's arrival had taken away some of the pressure that had been building. Jamie, Mia exhaled, her voice softer now. Thank you for coming. Look, I just heard there was trouble, Jamie said, lifting his hands, palms facing out. But there's more to this. I know things that might help Ian. What kind of things? Ian asked, his voice barely above a whisper, nervousness lying heavy on his shoulders. Jamie's gaze darted around the room, taking note of every face, reading their fear, confusion, and suspicion. You need to hear me out. First, I need you all to trust me. Ian, you're not alone in this. The debt, it runs deeper than you think. What do you mean? Sarah shot back, her defensive nature kicking in once more. There's a person I know, Jamie said, his tone shifting to serious. I've seen him pull some dirty tricks. Loan sharks are just the beginning. It's not just money with these guys, it involves threats, manipulation, and he hesitated, weighing his words. It's a whole network. Jane's stomach tightened. So, you're saying he's dangerous? Very, Jamie confirmed, nodding gravely. I've dealt with some of their employees before. If they think they can get what they want from you, they won't stop until they do. Mia turned abruptly to Ian, her brows knitted together in worry. You know them, don't you? You've spoken to someone? Ian's jaw clenched, and he took a step back. It's not what you think, he mumbled, but the muffled tone did little to mask the anxiety in his voice. Ian. Jane could feel the rising tide of panic. You need to tell us everything. I didn't want to worry you. He said, frustration spilling out. I thought I could fix it on my own. Doesn't it make sense to get ahead of this? Jamie pressed. They won't let this go. If you try to hide, things can get much worse. We need to figure this out as a family. The word hung in the air, but it was the emotion behind it that brought tears to Jane's eyes. They were family, yet Ian had isolated himself in a dark mess. What can we do? She asked, her voice breaking. We can't let this happen to you, none of us. Ian looked around at the concerned faces surrounding him, each one filled with a blend of fear and determination. It was a lifeline thrown at just the right moment. I'll tell you everything, he said finally, swallowing hard. Before he could continue, Jamie raised a hand. Wait. We need a plan. We can't just head into this blind. His words were grounding, but Jane felt a fresh wave of anxiety. Are there any safe options? Listen, Jamie said, his eyes focused. I can help you set up a meeting with someone who might be able to offer assistance, a friend in the recovery space. But you all need to be careful. They have eyes everywhere. The room fell silent, everyone grappling with the urgency of Jamie's message. Slowly, Ian nodded, desperation and determination etched on his face. Okay, let us do it. We need to find a way out. As plans began to form, Jane felt a flicker of hope again, but it was fragile, easily crushed under the weight of uncertainty that still loomed large. There's one more thing, Jamie added, as if reading her thoughts. If the debts don't get cleared, they might come for family. That includes you, Jane. Her breath hitched. The stakes had never been higher. And as Ian looked at her, a silent pledge passed between them, a pledge of trust and the choice to fight together. But would their bond be strong enough for the trials ahead? The door creaked open, and a strangled voice called from the shadows. You need to know the truth before it's too late. Everyone turned to face the newcomer, hearts racing with dread. The tension in the room thickened, each breath filling with the weight of unspoken fears. The newcomer stepped into the light, and Jane felt her heart drop. It was Derek, an old family friend who had once been a steady presence in their lives. But today, his eyes held a wildness that sent shivers down her spine. What are you doing here? Ian's voice shook as he struggled to maintain his composure. Derek hesitated, seemingly torn between his intentions and the heavy air around them. I know more about Ian's situation than you realize, he admitted, his gaze darting between Jamie and Ian. I've been hearing whispers. The debt isn't just Ian's anymore, he's being used as leverage. Leverage? Jamie echoed, appearing more alarmed. By who? The people you're dealing with, they're ruthless, Derek said, shaking his head. If they can't get what they want from Ian, they'll target those closest to him. I wish I had come forward sooner, I thought I could dig it up quietly, find a way to help without alarming anyone. His voice cracked under the strain of vulnerability. Why didn't you come to us earlier? Mia asked, frustration lacing her tone. What were you waiting for? Derek took a breath, trying to steady himself. I wanted to protect you. I thought if I could gather enough information first, I could approach you without causing panic. But the reality is far worse than I imagined. Jane stepped forward, her heart racing not from fear, but from desperate resolve. What do you know? We need to face this together. We can't let anyone tear our family apart. Derek leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a hush. Ian, you're mixed with someone powerful. Someone you possibly don't even recognize. He paused, looking down. It's about more than money, it could put your lives at risk. The word struck Ian like a blow, and he staggered back, gripping the side of the couch for support. I didn't choose this. I thought I could handle it. None of us choose our circumstances, Ian, Jamie interjected firmly, anger tinged with concern. But running isn't going to save you. Jane felt her tears pooling. Please, tell us what we need to do. We can't let them hurt anyone, especially not family. We need to fight back. There was a moment of silence, the energy in the room shifting as Derek cleared his throat. I have a contact who knows the inner workings of this network. They can help us untangle all of this. But it could get dangerous. I managed to set up a meeting, but you all need to be on high alert. They will not take this lightly. Do you trust this contact? Jamie asked, skepticism creeping into his voice. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in their ability to help. But it's not going to be easy, Derek warned. There's a storm coming, and we need to be prepared. Hope flickered dangerously within Jane, battling against the dread that loomed. She looked at Ian and saw a reflection of her own uncertainty, yet there was also fiery determination. We'll do whatever it takes. This ends now. Family sticks together, Jamie said, his voice steady. We'll protect each other. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Someone else was approaching, drawing closer. The urgency in the atmosphere returned, thickening again as they all cast nervous glances toward the door. What now? Ian whispered, fear creeping back into his voice. The door swung open and a familiar face appeared, someone they never expected to see here, a face from their past that would change everything. Sorry for the interruption, the stranger said with a devilish smile. But I think we need to have a little chat about your debts. The group tensed. Reality hit hard, and the journey just got a whole lot more complicated. Would they be ready to confront whatever truth lay in store? The heavy silence in the room felt suffocating. Jane exchanged glances with Ian, Jamie, and Mia, each silently grappling with their own fears and surprises. Moments ticked by, stretching the tension. The stranger leaned against the doorframe, his arms crossed, the playful smirk etched on his face betraying the seriousness of his words. Brady? Ian finally said, disbelief coloring his voice. What are you doing here? The smirk deepened, a flash of mischief behind his eyes. I think we both know why I'm here, buddy. So let's cut to the chase. He stepped further into the room, casually strolling as if he owned the place. Jane's stomach tightened. Brady had always been charismatic but never known for his kindness. She'd felt uneasy about him before. What do you want? She managed to say, each word laced with tension. Family business, isn't it? He said, glancing around at the group. Seems there are a few loose ends to tie up regarding those debts Derek mentioned. What do you know about it? Jamie snapped, anger flashing in his eyes. Brady held up a hand, as if to dismiss Jamie's question. Let us not play games. I didn't come to cause trouble, at least, not yet. I came to offer a solution. An offer? Mia raised an eyebrow, her skepticism visible. Sure. I can help. But it's going to cost you. Cost us what? Ian's voice was strained, tinged with frustration. Nothing too terrible. Just a little cooperation, a show of goodwill, Brady replied, a glint of mischief lingering in his gaze. Jane felt both anger and fear swirling inside her, clashing with her need to protect her family. We are not interested in your games, Brady. If you're here because of Ian's debts, then you need to leave. The words came out stronger than she felt. Brady laughed lightly, tapping his temple as if she hadn't just issued a challenge. You're all so naive. Don't you see? You're in over your heads. I know who you're dealing with, and running away won't help. You're all too close, you need a lifeline. A lifeline? Or a noose? Jamie shot back, his fists clenching at his side. Brady's expression darkened slightly. You think this is a game? Think again. You can't afford to be reckless. There are people who won't hesitate to ruin you all just to settle a score. Ian's face turned pale, the weight of Brady's warning hitting home. What do you know? Brady straightened, suddenly serious. I know things. Not just about the debts, about the people Ian has tangled with. If you want safety, you need to put aside your pride and consider my offer. Or, well, you could stick together and end up in deeper trouble. The air grew icy as they contemplated his words. Jane felt her heart pounding, the urgency of the situation crawling under her skin. Could Brady actually mean to help, or was this just another trap? Derek moved closer, determination lighting his features. We don't need his help, we have each other. We can fight this. Sometimes fighting doesn't mean what you think it does, Brady countered, his tone now low and urgent. Sometimes it's a matter of survival. And if you want to outsmart those who wish to hurt you, you need to play it smart. Jane bit her lip, considering the weight of his words. She could see Ian tensing, the fear flooding his features. Think about it, Brady said, his playful demeanor slipping away as he leaned in closer. It's either cooperate with me, or watch your family suffer the consequences. Their fate hung in the balance. Could they trust this man who had walked back into their lives? A flash of resolve coursed through Jane. Let us talk, she said, her voice steady. But know this, we're not afraid, and we will fight for our family. Brady grinned, the devilish look returning. Now that's the spirit, Jane. I think we'll get along just fine. As shadows loomed over the room and decisions hung by a thread, they knew they were standing on the edge of something monumental. What lurked around their next corner could either be salvation or their undoing. Would they confront the darker truths ahead, or would fear hold them captive? The tension in the room could be felt as thick as the dust in the attic. Jane stood tall, gathering every ounce of her strength. We're not afraid, and we will fight for our family. Brady leaned back slightly, a smirk still on his lips. You're brave or maybe just foolish. Either way, this is a game you don't truly understand. Jane's heart raced as she felt a mix of anger and determination ignite within her. She couldn't let fear dictate her actions. Ian, she turned to her son-in-law, locking eyes with him. This is your opportunity to step up. You need to bring everything to the table. No more secrets. Ian gulped, his expression shifting from uncertainty to resolve. I know I messed up. I was just trying to handle things myself. But I'm done with hiding. His voice trembled, but his gaze was fierce. Moments passed, tension slicing through the air like a knife. Derek nodded, stepping forward. We can navigate this as a family, if we're upfront about our struggles. Nobody will succeed alone. Yes. Mia agreed, looking at everyone with a spark of hope. We've faced challenges before together. This is just another hurdle, we'll overcome it, just like we always have. Brady squinted, his earlier bravado faltering, as he processed their determination. All right, I see where this is going. You're going to need my help if you want to get out of this alive. Jane took a deep breath. Then we talk. You lay out your terms, and we'll decide if we trust you. Brady leaned in, like a conspirator ready to spill secrets. Fine. Here's how it works. I have connections who can help you negotiate with those loan sharks. But you'll need to play along with me and follow my lead. If we show them we're not intimidated, they might back off. And how do we know you'll follow through? Jamie challenged, impatience threading his voice. We need to know we're not just pawns in your game. Brady raised an eyebrow. That essay risk you'll have to take. But believe me, ignoring this will only keep your family in their sights, and that essay danger you can't afford. Silence settled among them, the weight of the choice looming. I can't believe this is what it's come to, Jane murmured, feeling both helpless and empowered. Then, Ian spoke up again, steadier this time. I want to do this. I can't let my mistakes hurt my family anymore. A resolute fire burned in his eyes as he looked around the room, meeting the gazes of each family member. We'll work together, right? Yes. Main voices broke in unison, a chorus of support. Jane felt a wave of love flood her heart. Each person here mattered, their bonds strengthened by the struggles they faced. Standing on the precipice of change, Jane felt the air shift. It was a palpable turning point. As uncertain and daunting as the future remained, she felt hope lift her spirits. Brady's smirk faded significantly. All right then, let's move this along. We have work to do. As he outlined the plan, something changed within Jane, a newfound clarity guiding her heart. They would not let fear dictate their decisions any longer. They would stand and face every challenge that came their way. Together, the conversations grew steadier, bonds solidifying with each word spoken. They exchanged ideas, plans formed, and strategies emerged from the chaos. With laughter breaking the tension, each member caught a glimpse of not only the struggle ahead, but also the unbreakable love that held them all together. Later that evening, after layering their plans with determination, the family gathered outside to catch their breath. The sun dipped low, painting hues of orange and violet across the sky. Jane watched as her grandchildren played in the yard, laughter spilling into the atmosphere, reminding her that they weren't just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for every joyful moment yet to come. We can do this, she whispered, confidence growing within. Mark smiled, squeezing her hand. Together, we can weather any storm. And as they stood on the brink of a new beginning, Jane realized they had already begun a transformation, not just of circumstances, but of themselves. They were no longer vulnerable prey to circumstance. They had become a fierce family, ready to protect one another. The weight of burdens ahead would help shape them, but it wouldn't shatter their connection. Instead, it would strengthen it. Together, they took one step forward, a step into hope, into family, into love. The tumultuous road ahead seemed less threatening now, and as Jane breathed in the warm evening air, she felt her heart fill with a tenacious fire. They could overcome anything, and as their silhouettes danced against the vivid sunset, Jane knew the journey was far from over. They had merely begun. But let this be your moment too. If you want to keep witnessing powerful transformations like Jane and her family, you need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread the word. Your voice matters. And don't forget to comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And you share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans know the importance of supporting storytelling that brings us together.